So we've seen within the last couple of days that NCB Capital Markets and Sagicor Investments have released updated recommendations or statements concerning the tropical battery APO that's currently out. And so we're going to dig into that. There was also an article that was released recently by the Observer, kind of asking questions about the APO, what's happening with it, and the like. So we're just going to talk about that a little bit today, get into what has been happening with the APO. Well, the final thing I've noticed as well is that they've been, the dates have been pushed back for the APO multiple times as well. So I know there are a few questions surrounding it. We're going to go through the information that we have, talk about what it may mean, and see, what the outlook is for tropical at this point. So that's what we're going to get into. Before we get started, though, I do want to open with a word of prayer. So let's start with that. Lord, we thank you for this day, Lord. Thank you for the ability to produce wealth. Lord, we just pray that as we go through this session, we will have wisdom, knowledge, and understanding to be able to use the information to make the best decision for our investments. We give you glory, honor, and praise in Jesus' name. Amen. All right, so let's get started.
Learning is the key to successful investing. And who doesn't want to invest in some way?
Here at L.E.A.R.N. Grow Invest, we focus on financial education, all with the aim of sharing our knowledge on personal finance, investing, and building wealth. We do this on the foundation of our faith in God.
If a more holistic approach is what you need, check out our Grow Faith-based financial coaching program.
Find out more about us at learngrowinvestclub.com
and follow us on all social media platforms at Learn, Grow, Invest.
All right, so let's get started first with the review of the Sagicor investments notice that was sent out. So if you have, what I noticed, this was sent out to maybe persons who would have applied for the offer. That is my understanding, because I don't believe it was sent to everybody. So it says here, and someone from our community forwarded these to me, both that I'll go through. So it says, we appreciate your interest in participating in the Tropical Battery Company Limited APO. After release of the company Okay, I think my connection went there for a little bit. Apologies for that. So I switched connections. Hopefully you can hear me okay. So I was reading that after release of the company's management accounts and ongoing market analysis, our recommendation regarding this investment opportunity has been updated. So we believe the APO still presents an investment case with strong fundamentals and potential growth. However, based on the current market conditions and outlook, we are revising our recommendation from participate to market weight. This change reflects our assessment of the company's prospects in the context of broader market trends. So the company's strong position and potential for growth remains unchanged, and we continue to view the investment as attractive. The revised recommendation aims to help you optimize your investment portfolio. Please be advised that the offer closes today, July 4th. If you have any questions or would like to discuss this update further or amend your application, please reach out to your investment advisor by 3 p.m. today. You may also contact us at so on and so forth. Right? I have questions about this notice. I won't really get into how I think it was structured. I'll just say that it's the statement, based on current market conditions and outlook. We are revising from participate to market weight. So this line here that says current market conditions and outlook, I wonder what would have changed in terms of the market conditions and outlook from 2 months ago when the offer just came out, because the market conditions to me have been fairly the same. The outlook has been the same. What changed was the company's financials in terms of the restatement. So that's what I'll say there. That's what stood out to me. So this change reflects our assessment of the company's prospects in the context of broader market trends. Yeah, so this just seems a little, interesting that would be the reason that's phrased. Anyway, that's, neither here nor there. Let's go to the NCB one. NCB says on June 25, 2025, Tropical Battery issued its restated financial statement for the quarter ended December 31st, along with the statements for the quarter ended March 31st. NCB Capital Markets previously issued recommendation dated May 16 is no longer valid since it was issued before the recent material disclosure. So this is actually something that was good to see for them to come out and say this, because it is material information. It does change the prospect or the outlook for the offer. Not that the recommendation would necessarily change, but the fact that they're releasing this is actually good to see. So accordingly, unless we receive written confirmation from you by Friday, July 4th at 4 p.m., indicating that you wish to proceed, notwithstanding, we shall arrange for processing of a refund to you in due course. So you'll notice with Sagicor's application, they say, contact us by X time. In NCB's case, they're saying, hey, if we don't hear from you, they shall arrange for, processing of the refund. That's how I'm reading it, right? Unless we receive written confirmation that you want to proceed, right? That's what it's saying there. So that was very, very an interesting approach to it. But again, that's what's there. Next, we have the article that I mentioned, right? So this article came out, I believe, last Sunday. That's the 25th. So was this written by David Rose? I think so, right? So it says, Tropical Battery has extended the closing date for its 1.79 billion secondary offer for the second time in weeks to July 4th, which is today, raising questions over investor appetite for the capital raise needed to repay debt. The company cited institutional investors requiring more time for internal processes. All right. So the extension, July 4th, follows an earlier delay, pushing the deadline from June 6th to June 20th. Stating the move allows for prospective investors additional time to complete their internal investment processes. All right. So there is that. And this is the part that I think I want to get into. Let me see. Well, this is speaking about, for example, mixed results from recent APOs. So there's an APO by Kingston Properties, Derrimon, Cygnus, Barita, JMB, etc. Of course, these would have been done at different times. Nonetheless, they would have been done and succeeded. 138, when they did their APO back in 2023, they were able to raise 510 million, which was barely above the 500 million minimum, but far below its $2.15 billion target. Right, and a year ago, NCB would have tried to secure 5 billion, but only was able to get half. Right, so Tropical Battery has not disclosed any potential upsizing for its offer, which could raise up to 210 billion, suggesting subscriptions may not yet exceed the base of the $1.79 billion target. Right, so usually before an offer closes, if the offer is upsized, you'll see that notice. And that's when you have an understanding that, hey, this offer may close above what the company has set out to raise. So we did not see that. So at this point, it is set to close at 4 p.m. today. So we are expecting to see, so we did not see an extension notice. We didn't see anything to say that it wouldn't close today. So maybe at some point over the weekend, we would see, you know, that closure notice based on the extensions. Would have hoped to see something by now, because usually, again, these things are usually wrapped up or known before closure date. So there's usually a notice to say, I agree here, Renee. So Renee is saying that it may have been helpful to actually have a clear recommendation for those who participated. Exactly what I thought, right? So Renee is speaking to, well, in Sagicor's case, they move it from participate to market weight, implying not to participate. It's like saying market weight to me is saying that it's pretty much, it's not something that would be compelling different to just buying the shares on the open market, right? That's how I interpret that. NCB is saying that they'll pretty much give you a refund is also kind of implying something, but it's not very clear. So a clear recommendation to me would have been appropriate there for sure, right? So there's that. So the offer faces additional headwinds. So at the time, they would have been at risk of suspension if they did not report on their Q2. I believe they did that. So I think we got those, if I'm not mistaken. And the company cited delays consolidating its accounts following its acquisitions of Kaya. And so there was that delay that was caused. And then this is the part that stood out to me. Tropical has had a recurring pattern of delayed financial reporting. Now, we don't know if this is just what's happening with the entire industry or specifically with them. It's saying here is 2023 audited results due in November 2023 were submitted in February 24. And then similarly, the 2024 audited results arrive in February 2025 after the Rose deal, right? So its Q1 was filed over a month late on March 13. And as a junior market company, they avoid the monetary penalties for these breaches. It hired a group financial consultant in May to strengthen controls. So that's actually good to see, because these things will help to ensure that they're able to meet their obligations. So yeah, I think that's it, right? So another thing that I wanted to look at before I get into the whole thing, right? So the price was actually holding steady for the most part in terms of the price throughout the offer, right? But within the last couple of days, we've actually seen it started to trend down, right? The article came out, I would say the 25th was the one for the Observer and so on. So we've seen it, trade down since that date. And then, of course, I wanted to look at how it traded today, especially coming after those notices by both Sagicor and NCB. So let me log into JTrader for a second, and we'll see how it traded today. So I want to hear from you. Did you apply for this offer? What are your thoughts on what came out from NCB and Sagicor? So what do you think, right? I know some of our community members, reached out to me, shared information with me, but I'm curious as to what you are thinking as well, all right? So let me know and we can talk about it. All right, so let me share my screen again. So we saw today, and I thought it was very interesting today when I looked at the queue. The buy orders are pretty much drying up. Only 10 buy orders at this point for the company. It did do not buy and sell. I wanted to click on trades. Did I miss this? I did. 1 second. Don't want to share my private details here. So, okay, so that's weird. Is that me or is that J Trader? Well, all right. So this is how we traded today. So we saw it seemed like it opened at $2, traded maybe as high as 207, 206, 207, well 210, and then went closed the day under $2. So the last trade was 199, but the queue was very dry today. Is the word I'd use, which was interesting to see, and with not much orders on the buy side, it would look pretty interesting. Again, what we did see with, for example, the Trans Jamaica offer, which wasn't an APO, but this may be a similar case in the fact that since persons were able to buy through the offer, maybe there won't be the same appetite on the open market to buy shares, at least in the short term, because persons would have been able to apply through the offer. So if you're able to buy through the offer, then you may not necessarily be interested in purchasing that way. So that's just, something to think about here. In terms of whether or not persons are going to be, I don't think persons who would have, for example, been able to, so let's say that notice came out to Sagicor persons. I don't know if they would have enough time to respond, if they would have enough time to process the information. So it's kind of unfortunate. Let me see if there was a date on the Sagicor notice, because I think it was sent to me today by somebody. So I don't know if that's enough notice for persons. Again, we haven't seen notice that it's extended. So we don't know what will happen. I haven't heard anything of a closure as yet. So we have to assume it's gonna close normally, because we've seen no notice of an extension. So that's what we've seen. So here's what I have to say about it, right? I do think the fact that, well, one, I didn't think the delays were necessarily good to see. Not that those don't happen, but that gives a feel at least of maybe poor planning in terms of the offer, whether it be timing, whether it be the investors who may be interested. Because I think it's kind of understood or seen that at least from the institutional side, those things are usually kind of discussed like beforehand. So typically the broker would work with the client to kind of, I guess, generate leads, for lack of a better phrase, look at prospective investors. And that's why sometimes there's a reserved amount for a certain number of shares. We saw that with Trans Jamaica, where a portion of it was kind of reserved for certain investors. So with offers of this size, we typically have that. So the fact that, it would have stated that it was kind of pushed back to give those more time, not that those things won't happen, but it kind of would give the impression there that it may not have been executed properly there. The numbers would have been delayed for the financials that were expected during that time. And here's the thing, when you're trying to decide on an offer like this, information is helpful. So the more information you can get to understand what's happening with the company, etc., it's helpful to you to know where the company is headed. Of course, the historical results don't necessarily always point to what the future is going to be, but at the very least, you want to know where the company is at today, right? Because financials are at least a quarter in the back, right? So the numbers that you're looking at now is typically not the quarter that you're in. And that's just the nature of reporting, right? Companies have 4 to 6 weeks to report. And so as much information as you can have about an offer you want to have, right? So the delayed numbers didn't necessarily help, I think. And then the fact that the numbers had to be restated now, I believe just the the combination of those things, right? So the combination of the offer being delayed a couple of times, the combination of the restated financials, and then the combination of this change in recommendation from the brokers who are pretty much would have been encouraging clients to participate in the offer has now changed their perspective. It kind of puts the company in an interesting position. Now, I don't think this necessarily means that the offer won't close. We'll wait to see what happens there, but it certainly may start to raise maybe questions that didn't necessarily need to be raised if it was executed differently. So I'm very curious to see what happens from here, right? So again, I'm curious to know what everybody thinks. All right, Tabaris is the first to say anything. So let's see. Tabaris says, nothing much to say. First off, I'm not a fan of the APO, and the delayed results in the middle of a raise is a red flag. So Tabaris wasn't interested from day one. So I will say this, right? Because I remember when I was looking at, I don't remember what it was. Maybe it was the end of an episode a few months ago. I remember saying, you know, based on the information I had, based on everything that we knew about the company, to me, things were pretty straightforward at the time, right? Company did an acquisition. They had to take on debt to acquire the company. And now they were in a position where they have this massive debt that's there because, you know, they would have had a short timeline to complete the acquisition, right? So it was let's get this financing first, make the acquisition, then we can raise money later on to cover the debt. That seemed pretty clear cut. Revenues had grown, profitability had grown, certainly operating profit. It was just a finance cost that was holding them back. So the raise to clear the finance cost makes sense. Now, the challenges or the headwinds, which is a term that is used here, are what poses a challenge, because the timing of those things kind of overshadows the offer. And at the very least, again, we're waiting to see whether or not the offer closes or not. I think the offer still has a good chance to close. I'm not sure how much they'll raise, especially if persons would have been potentially withdrawing applications on the day of closing. I don't necessarily think that would have been the best thing. I think so. The fact that the brokers released recommendations this week, I thought, again, I know this would not have been ideal per se. I would have had maybe, I mean, depending on where they are, I would have extended it. Hear me out. I would have extended it, come out maybe with another investor briefing, maybe something to just, you know, assure investors of what's happening, give a reason for the delays or everything that has happened, and say, well, you know, this is where we are, this is our realities, this is what the broker says, but this is where we are, XYZ, and then so on and so forth. That to me would make investors who, especially those who would have applied, feel more comfortable with the whole thing, right? Because if somebody applies and then sees that statement from the broker, whether NCB or Sagicor, now they're a little unsure of themselves. You know, they're like, what do I do? And those are some of the comments that I've been getting, you know, persons in our community, persons in our challenge or our coaching program. They've been reaching out to me, asking me, you know, Germaine, what do I do with this information? What do I do now? Right? So that I thought would have been a better way to maybe treat with this, because for this statement to come out, especially from Sagicor on closing day, because what if I didn't read my email, I read it now, offer closed at 4, and I wanted to maybe withdraw my application, I wouldn't have had the opportunity to. So that may lead to persons now, if they do get their shares, feeling like maybe they don't want the shares. That's a kind of dynamic that is formed here. So Alejandra said, applied but delays and feeling blindsided with the late notice from the broker is a big red flag. So that's kind of what I'm saying as well, where how everything was kind of handled, I'm not sure if that would have been, because it feels now like the company and the broker are separate, right? So the company would have done their thing and the broker released a statement. Now I get why the brokers did what they did, and absolutely that's what you want a broker to do. You want the broker to inform you so you can make an informed decision and choose for yourself. But the wording is what was interesting to me, and the fact that, again, we didn't necessarily hear anything from the company. Some persons were saying maybe the company should have released a statement as well. I'm not sure. SE says, could there be lawsuits if potential shareholders feel bamboozled? What would be the grounds of the lawsuit, though, right? Because I think that, one, the restatement was published before the offer closes. The broker can say they technically release their statements before the offer closes. So we do have an issue in our market in terms of information dissemination. So sometimes I see notices post on only one platform when, let's say, something is posted on the JSE site, but maybe persons don't know that the information is there. Sometimes something is sent by the broker through email, but not on social media, and things like that. So the information is not always shared in the most optimal way. So there are persons now who have no idea, like they could be watching this video and this is the first time they're hearing about this. And again, the offer is closed, so they could not have weighed the decision before they got to this point. So that's one of the things that I see here that maybe could have been handled differently. Now, what I do think about it, exactly, right? You need timely info for informed decision. Because if I get the information after the fact, even though I might have made the same decision, the fact that I got it after the fact will make me feel like I got shafted somehow. Like it may start to breed mistrust in the process, right? So now I do think, again, that so a lot of things will depend on where the company goes from here. Now, if the offer closes successfully, I think this will just be a bad experience for some, and something that maybe the company can kind of put away sooner than later. If the offer does not close successfully, then it depends on what the gap was, right? So 1.79 billion was the target. If there is $1 billion or less, that's a big gap, right? If there is 1.5, 1.4, 1.5 thereabout, I think that would be received, not as bad, meaning they would have a good chunk to still be able to take down a portion of the debt. But if they don't meet the minimum of $1 billion, that would be, I think, would set the company back, certainly in terms of their timeline. Timeline in terms of their projections, timeline in terms of how the market may view them, timeline in terms of, because here's the thing, and this is something I was talking to somebody about today, that the market, the no APO crowd is going to have some very interesting takes, or at least something to say about this, depending on what happens, right? So if the offer is able to close, successfully, I think everything will kind of, it will be a non-issue sooner than later. But if it doesn't close successfully, that's when you'll hear, the market doesn't like this, market is this, the market is that, etc. So Alejandra says he's anticipating the market dip. The market dip in terms of for the company or the market overall. Yeah, I mean, we've already seen the price start to go down already, because close today at 197. The offer was 187. So NB Lee says info too late. Not all brokers offer the refund. Exactly, right? So that I'm a little bit, that didn't seem clean to me, right? Which is what I was saying before. I think it would have made sense to maybe push things back a week, give investors an opportunity to either voice their concerns through an investor briefing, something like that, kind of assure investors, and then investors can decide what they want to do from there. But for the persons whose applications went through and they wanted a refund, they're not going to be happy, and they're probably going to try and sell their shares as soon as they're able to. But there are persons who would be like, well, this is a short-term thing. I think the overall outlook for the company is still fine, and they may be just okay with everything and so on, right? So what the company says or what happens from here is going to be important. So Tabaris says, too many opportunities on the market for me to worry about Tropical's offer. Okay. All right. So I do think you're right in that there are a lot of opportunities on the market. I think it's a very interesting time, right? This kind of lends me to, because we're halfway through the year. I did hear this week, by the way, I can share this, that there's an offer coming to market soon. I can't say when, of course, but there's an offer coming to market. That's what I was told. I don't know if it's true or not. And so I was saying, though, that we've only seen one offer in 6 months, when I think at the start of the year we heard maybe 12 to 14. I really dislike when, I think I heard that from Mayberry, or in some article. If Mayberry didn't say it, I apologize. I don't want Mayberry to be upset at me. But I think I could have heard maybe on one of their investor forums, maybe 12 to 14 for the year, or I heard it somewhere, right? Forgive me if I got that wrong. But to see the market respond in this way, what I will say is that we saw Trans Jamaica raise 12 billion for their offer for sale. We saw Barita recently raise 8.5 billion for their bond. I think Mayberry did some offer as well. So to me, there's money there. So to say there's not money in the market is not true. To say investors aren't interested is not true. So I know persons have been saying that they're waiting on like West Indies Petroleum. There are other companies who've been talking about listing. I think JSC might have said something as well about the potential listings for the year. So I don't like when there is anticipation built in the market and then things don't play out for whatever reasons, right? I think that even those things should be communicated. Like, for example, I think it's the JSC's responsibility to state what's coming out for the market. And if they state what's coming out for the market, and 6 months in the outlook has changed, we should know as well, because a part of what the JSC is supposed to be doing is inspiring engagement, communicating with investors, and just letting us know, because there are those of us, like us, who are very invested in the market in terms of the market's growth, the market's potential. We are creating content, doing courses, doing classes to encourage people to invest. So the more the brokers, the more the JSC, the more persons, provide the information and the data necessary for persons to have the confidence to invest, it's extremely important. All right. So NB Lee says, it's how it was handled that has me feeling somewhat jaded about this offer, which is fair. Doesn't inspire confidence. The lead brokers dropped the ball. Is it the brokers though? Because this was something that I saw being discussed in one of the groups I'm in, right? I think, and that's why I say I think it was important for the brokers to say what they did. Because here's the thing, if the broker said nothing and the offer closed, I think that would have been worse. So they updated their recommendations. How soon they did it? Let me see how, when did they release the restatement? I'm trying to see the date that they released the restatement. Did the article say it? I think I did a search for I think the restatement was done maybe a week or so ago. So the brokers sharing their updated recommendations within the week is not bad. It's just the timing of it, right? Because this is the week that it was being closed. So as you said, depending on the funds being raised and how it go with clearing their debt will determine a lot. Absolutely, right? So if they raise it, I think this will kind of blow over pretty quickly. If they don't raise it, that would kind of be something that's kind of there for a little bit lingering, right? Market has money, people are getting wiser and not so okay. So Tabaris, what made this to you not a good offer, right? I know you mentioned the APO issue, but what is wrong with the offer? So let's say the offer was a different type of offer. What fundamentally is wrong about the offer for you? Because again, the company has made an acquisition that has led to growth in the business, which has led to increased profitability in the business. The issue for them is how that was financed. And so they needed a way to clear the debt that they took on to do the acquisition. So what was your issue with the offer? Was it the price? Was it how it was handled? That's what I'm asking here. All right. All right, let me check in our community if anybody has anything to say or ask. I think we can wrap up this video now. Okay. I'm not seeing, because Tabaris said the big red flag is the APO. I make money from share price movement, not fundamentals. Sign GK. Okay. Okay, so your issue with the offer is that it's an APO. What is the alternative to you that the company could have done? So if they didn't do an APO, how else would you recommend that they pay down the debt? Let me know. Ryan is saying, has the offer been closed? No, I haven't seen that notice, right? So that's what I was saying, that I don't see anything there that has come out to say the offer has closed. So that's the thing, I don't know. I think if it has closed, or if it had closed, somebody would have shared some notice. The broker at least would have, posted something. So let me check their social media to see if anything was posted. So I see the notice for the extension, but I don't see anything about closure, right? If something is being done that is known to stagnate share price, why would Tabaris, I get that's what you're saying about the APO. I'm asking you, what is your alternative, right? So if you're saying the company should not have done an APO, what should they have done? That is what I'm asking you here, right? Brian is saying, I'm very worried they won't be able to raise enough funds and still lose their tax break. Okay. Are they at the tax break point? No. And so here's the thing, based on quite a lot of things were happening for them as well within this short time. So a lot needs to take place for them in a short time, because there were some other debts as well for them to clear. So it really will be interesting to see what the company, I think the company should do something, right? Whether an investor briefing, whether something, because I wouldn't leave this to linger in the minds of investors, especially those who were looking at the company and planning to invest. I think it's going to be important to communicate, but I don't know. I think they would have had enough time to successfully close the offer. And so let's see. All right, humble boss, you're gonna have to watch the replay is what I can say. Warrell is saying the offer is okay, but to me the issue with this is it being extended twice, and then in the last minute the brokers are saying otherwise. Okay, so the extension to me is not so much the issue. It's like the combination of things. I don't think I've ever seen brokers do this, right? So that was just interesting to see. And as I said, the way it was done, not saying this is the reality, but it at least gives the impression almost like the broker is trying to separate themselves from the offer, which I don't know if I would have necessarily worded it that way, which is why I think, again, both brokers and client should have had an investor briefing saying the financials were restated. This is the situation. This is our outlook, but we think XYZ, XYZ. I thought that would have made sense to do. So yeah. So Tabaris is saying instead of APO, a bond is an easy one. If paying the debt will create more profits, then some of those profits can go towards paying a bond and over time reveal the true profitability, after which a rights issue could raise. Okay, I see what you're saying. So do a bond instead. So a bond would maybe be like maybe 8 to 9%. So I think they're paying 17% on the loan for the 9.5. So you essentially cut the interest rates in half. But with a bond though, they would have cash outflows. So I guess instead of paying interest, they're paying bond holders. Okay, I see what you're saying there. The thing with me with a bond though is depending on the state of the company's cash flows. To me, if they do a bond, they're certainly not going to be paying a dividend, but I guess the bond would have a higher yield than the dividend anyway. Okay, I like that option. Because if it doesn't dilute the shares, the company cuts the debt in half, pay that down. Okay, I like that. I like the bond option for sure. They haven't allowed people enough time to make a decision. If they want to continue, yes, for sure. I don't think there's enough time, because when I saw the NCB notice, I was like, okay, this is interesting. And then I started to add things up, and I was like, okay, I see why they would have done it. It's just that based on the closing date, it was just very interesting to see. Let me see. What was the date of the NCB's advisory? I think somebody sent it to me on Wednesday. So, yeah. So, all right. So, yeah. So, I mean, if current shareholders want dividend from them, go buy the bond while ordinary. Yeah. So, as I said, I like the bond option actually for them, because it's like you're taking, because you're having to pay these finance costs anyway. So you're showing your ability to pay to pay the payments of the loan, and loans are due monthly. Your bond is due quarterly, so it's even more optimal for cash. Actually, like that option. So we'll see. The thing is though, if the APO doesn't close successfully, would they do a bond? I don't know, right? Because there would be some issuance of shares. Because here's my concern with the adding of additional shares, that would impact dividend per share. Because as you guys know, I'm a dividend investor. So I always look at, if a company pays a certain amount in dividends each year, if that dividend needs to increase, if shares also increase, the dividend may actually be flat or decrease, and that's never something that I want to see. So I really like that option, Tabaris. I think that makes a lot of sense, but I mean, hindsight is 2020. So yeah. All right. Any other comments before we close this off here? I started late on Instagram. Apologies for that. StreamYard is giving me some issues in terms of connecting with Instagram. So we started the stream late, but we're talking about the tropical battery APO. So notices would have come out from NCB Capital Markets, from Sagicor Investments, changing their recommendations for the offer and giving investors an opportunity to either take a refund or issuing a refund automatically, depending on how you read the notice, because as I said, it's kind of open for interpretation. And there was an article released, and so we're just kind of discussing what this all means for them, where we think the offer, what the outlook is depending on how the offer closes, if it closes successfully, if it closes partially, or if there's a big gap in terms of what they're able to raise. So that's what you kind of missed, persons on IG, and for those who maybe just joined. I was expecting Ryan to ask me this, right? So Germaine, are you still planning to hold your shares, or are you convinced to sell now? Interesting question, Ryan. So what I had said, let me give you some context for this. So previously, I had stated that Tropical is in my son's portfolio, and what was it? Yeah, we're talking about. I think I commented on it earlier, actually. Right. So what was happening at the time? Based on the pieces that I have, I did not see anything that would have impacted my decision to leave it in my son's portfolio. Here's the thing, Ryan. I'm going to be honest with you. That's how I always am. Renee and I have not made any changes to our son's portfolio yet. So I don't know when we'll have that conversation. We typically have the conversation at some point. So we'll see. As at this point, the shares are still in his portfolio. If he grows up to be 18 and be like, Daddy, you should have done something different, fine. But as at the point of this video, the shares are still there. And really, when I process all the things that I've gone through with this video, I do have concerns now that I didn't have before. And so it's simply of just going through that discussion with Renee. Because again, I'm seeing this information just like you guys are seeing it. I don't have any advanced knowledge of this, right? So I saw the NCB notice on Wednesday. I saw the notice from Sagicor today. I wasn't concerned about the delays per se, because I understand raising capital may take some time. But I am more concerned about how much they're able to raise, if they're able to put any dent in the debt at all. And so that would impact the outlook for sure in the short to medium term. Because if they're not able to raise enough and they can't pay down that debt, they're not going to realize any profits at all, right? Because it's a significant burden for them now. So short answer is that I'll wait to see how they close the offer, and then I'll make a decision from there. So I'll know what I'm doing, or Renee and I will know what we're doing in a couple of days. But as of now, it's still in our son's portfolio. Yeah. So the bond payment will then set a precedence for dividend payments could be after maturity. Well, here's the thing with bonds. Most companies I see do bonds, especially the larger bonds. They pretty much just reissue, because it's going to be hard to issue such a big chunk of cash out to investors. So they usually just, continue. I've never seen a company that's listed successfully retire a bond, if I'm not mistaken. Because Mayberry, when they did theirs a few years ago, they actually did another round, right? Because again, to pay out so much cash, it depends on how much cash they're able to accumulate. And I'm not sure they would be able to accumulate that much, especially with their expansion plans. So, but I get what you're saying in principle for sure. All right. It's really good to do this video and to be here with everybody. I really hope everybody is well. I will encourage you, if you have not done so as yet, register for our community. The link is in our profile here on YouTube or on any of our platforms, or we have a free community that you're welcome to join. Talk about investments, ask questions, join our monthly calls. All of that is available to you. So if you're brand new to the channel, we welcome you to join our community, and would love to be a part of your investment journey. If you have any questions, you want to reach out to us for any help, send us a DM, email us through our website. All of those mediums are great options. If you want to learn investing, if you want to, figure out how to make decisions for your portfolio, that's something that we help you with at any time. We can do it one-on-one, or you can look out for some of our classes and courses that are coming up. Final thing I'll say is that we do have some workshops that are coming up. Check out our website for those. And I don't think Renee would want me to close off by not mention the fact that we've started to add to our blogs weekly now. So we've been releasing a couple of articles. You might have seen them on our social media. But if you're not, you can subscribe to our mailing list. We'll send out maybe 2 to 3 emails a week with the blogs, with our monthly meetings, etc. So you can subscribe to our mailing list. But when you join our community, you are added to the mailing list automatically. So you can feel free to be a part of that list to get any updates from us. One final thing, please, if you have not started yet, I really do encourage you to start investing in the US markets as well. I think it provides a great opportunity right now. We did a post on our social media platforms about it. If you're not invested in the US markets, there's a video on our channel which walks you through it. It is a great opportunity for you to get another way to earn, right? Another way to get gains, and just there's great opportunities over there, right? So check out those options. Feel free to connect with us. We are here to help you manage your investments better. That's our mission, that's our mandate, and we take it very seriously. And so we want to just connect with you, hear from you, and to provide the best support that we can, right? So thanks to everybody for tuning in. Thanks for being a part of our community. And I'll see you again real soon.
Learning is the key to successful investing. And who doesn't want to invest in some way?
Here at L.E.A.R.N. Grow Invest, we focus on financial education, all with the aim of sharing our knowledge on personal finance, investing, and building wealth. We do this on the foundation of our faith in God.
If a more holistic approach is what you need, check out our Grow Faith-based financial coaching program.
Find out more about us at learngrowinvestclub.com
and follow us on all social media platforms at Learn, Grow, Invest.